And beautiful. Okay, so at first, so I'm gonna start yammering on here. So I am actually going to just mute everybody's. I mean, you feel free to mute yourself, otherwise I'm going to mute everybody. And here, perfect. I think most people did it on their own. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for participating, everybody. For those of you that joined last week, thanks for doing so. And again, that's all in the email that I sent, the recorded version, so people can get it. Quick little housekeeping stuff. And while I'm doing this, you can practice your breathing from last week while I start to talk about stuff. You're welcome to keep your videos on. You can turn them off, whatever feels good to you. It really doesn't matter. There is a time where you can show me desk setup, because that's what we're going to talk about in a moment. If you have questions, you feel free to just jot them down and either ask me at the end of this, or you can send me an email later and I can respond to that. If we have time, I would love to answer them here. There's some really good questions last week, so we'll try to do that. And so we're going to try to cover two things today, and I'm really excited. Thanks, Nancy, for the suggestion of the desk setup. It was perfect and brilliant. So we're going to talk about setting up your desk, even just holding screens and cell phones, like what should that look like? And then we're going to do a self-release of the jaw, because I don't care who you are right now, you could have no jaw problems whatsoever. You have jaw tightness. I can guarantee it. So we're going to talk about all of that. So those are the two things, and hopefully we will get through everything. So desk setup, and again, what a perfect situation. Right now, everybody is having to transport all their work stuff or school stuff home. And I know I see my kids and how they're sitting and how they're lounging, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is bad. Like people, and now I'm starting to get all the phone calls of like, oh my gosh, my back is so sore, I can't turn my head. And I'm like, well, it's probably because everybody's just trying to survive. We're just trying to get by and get our desks set up as best as we possibly can. So there's some general rules about setting up your desk. And first, I always say, bring stuff to you, don't go to it. Meaning your cell phone, your iPad, your computer, like we always want to lean forward and lean into our things. Bring them to you, don't go to them. That's like one of my #1 rules. I say that often. The second is the rule of 90s. So if it is a major joint, it should probably rest in a 90-degree angle. And so this is what I'm gonna, let me share my screen here real quick, and I'm gonna just show a quick little picture of this. So, yeah. Oops, where'd it go? Okay, I believe everybody can see that. So here we have, obviously the person on the left is leaning into their, oh,
can't see the screen.
You can't see it?
No, we just see you.
Oh, now you should be able to, right?
Better, yes.
Okay, thank you. So the person on the left is obviously leaning into their screen, where the person on the right, which so conveniently looks so happy, is experiencing something I call and what most people call the rule of 90s. So there's a 90-degree angle at the elbow, there's a 90-degree angle at the hip, there's a 90-degree angle at the knee, and at the ankle. So all of those major joints rest comfortably in that 90-degree position. So this is not always the case, but this is more often than not. If you are in a seated position, this is something to keep in mind. Laptops are hard because it's hard to see how the screen, because you want your neck then upright. So it's hard to keep a 90-degree angle at your elbow without tipping your head down. So if you can get a separate keyboard, if you have a laptop, that is the best case scenario. So that's the rule of 90s. Then we want to talk about position of the head. So in that position, or to keep that head upright, your screen, and usually what we say is that if you draw a straight line out from your eyeballs, the top of the screen should be about an inch or two above that. So it's not low and it's not super high, it's straight out in front of you. So I have had, and I've used to do ergonomic assessments frequently, and I would physically have people take a picture of themselves sitting at the desk from the side. So you can take a look at everything that is occurring to make sure, because you might think, oh yeah, this is about 90. And then when you actually see it, it is not near 90 degrees at all. So that is the general rule for sitting. So again, don't go to things, bring things to you, and try to follow the rule of 90s. And this is a big one. Don't cross your legs, because that will, there, I saw you shaking your head. That will destroy the low back and your hips. And so I've even suggested to people, as I've been talking with them as they're home, if you, people love to cross their legs, but if you give your feet something to do, meaning just put a ball and let your foot play with a ball underneath your desk or underneath whatever it is that you're sitting at, then you're less likely to cross your legs. Just a suggestion. So, and there even, of course, there's a zillion products for just about everything. I've seen these little foot swings where it is literally like a swing that you can rest your foot on and let your foot rock back and forth, which, I mean, I get it. Somebody is probably making way more money than I am because they developed this foot swing, but so the idea is just to give your foot something to do. And that plays also a part in a standing desk. And I also want to talk about then a good back support. So you want to keep your spine as neutral as possible. So even in these good ergonomic desk chairs, they claim they have a really good lumbar support, and most of them don't. So I suggest taking, I know this might seem funny, a roll of a lower used or a more used roll of paper towel and putting it literally at your low back, or rolling up a towel, a bigger bath towel, and putting that right across your low back just for extra support. Because even the good lumbar supporting chairs, they're just not great. Okay, so that's mostly sitting. Everybody get that? Sitting, awesome. Okay, so standing. So there was this huge rush of standing desks, which is great. I love people to stand at their jobs. I don't think it's realistic for everybody to stand off the bat all the time. So you need some variation. And standing is a great option. But I understand a lot of people have their offices set up, but they don't have their home office set up. So this is when you get creative. And the things that I have found to create your own standing desk if you don't have one is laundry baskets. To have one. So if you take a laundry basket and set it on top of a normal desk, and then you can put your computer right on top of that. It doesn't follow perfect rules of like the 90 degrees at the elbow, but you can
full screen?
Oh, sorry. I can, yes. There.
Thank you.
Thank you. So a regular laundry basket, obviously you heard me talk, but then you can play around with, I mean, I have about 4 different sizes, but that's a nice thing for people to just rest their computers right on. And then of course, big books is another one to adjust the height. So even in a standing position, you still want to adjust the monitors and things following that same principle as before. And then the feet playing with something is also important. We did have another picture, but okay, does that all make sense? The other thing to think about in all of these positions is the bowl of water principle, which if you think about your pelvis, you know what, I have a pelvis, hold on. Doesn't everybody have them laying around? A pelvis. So if you think of a pelvis, like, are you laughing? I think you guys are laughing at me. Doesn't everybody have a pelvis laying around? Okay. If you think of your pelvis like a bowl of water, so if you are sitting or you are standing, you don't want to spill the water out of that pelvis. So if you are reclined, you're going to pour the water out the back. If you are standing up in kind of a wonky position and arching, you're going to spill that water out the front. So keeping that bowl of water both in a sitting position and in a standing position is pretty crucial. Let me see my notes. Okay. So before, that's pretty much all I have on desk setup. Are there any questions about that before I go on to jaw stuff? Was that helpful? Cool.
It was. I don't work from a desk, but my partner has a desk job and he has a standing desk at work, and now he's working from home. And I just was like, oh, we have like 4 laundry baskets, so I'm gonna suggest that to him. He hasn't been having any back issues, but I know he enjoys standing when he works in his office, so that could be an easy way.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, laundry baskets.
Yeah.
Cool. So jaw, let's check my time. Perfect. Okay. So I hope everybody washed their hands because you got to touch your face. I know that's the big rule right now. So the jaw is an insanely common place for people to store tension. And right now, I don't know a single person that's not stressed. And so I can guarantee that there are spots of tension in your jaw. So we're going to talk about 3 different things. First is something called ischemic compression. And all that is a fancy word for, so ischemic means taking away oxygen, and compression. So you are going to literally starve the muscle of oxygen for a brief moment, kind of re-stimulate it to allow the body to recognize that there's a problem. Because sometimes people call them trigger points, sometimes people call them knots. All it is a place in the tissue where the body has stopped recognizing that it exists. So by creating a little bit of an irritation and starving that muscle of oxygen, you are triggering your body to re-recognize it so that it pays attention to it. So if you take, we'll just start on one side. So if you find the hard cheekbone, then you can use all of your fingers to just sort of locate that. And then with 1 or 2 fingers, you're going to locate kind of where your bottom jaw starts to interact with your upper jaw. And you're going to find a little triangle, I guess you could say, where those 2 things meet. And then you will just poke around with the pressure of like you are poking on an avocado, if an avocado is good, about that amount of pressure. And then you're gonna find a spot that does not feel great. And you are going to hold on to that. And you're gonna press into that. And you will have to play around with what kind of pressure you feel comfortable with. There's like the sweet baby Jesus kind of pressure, which is like, oh my gosh, I'm going to, you know, grab my own hand and push it away. Some people like that, which that's fine. That's your own cup of tea, that's fine. Some people can't tolerate that pressure, and you just got to figure out what's good for you. So when you find that, you're going to hold that for upwards of a minute to 2 minutes. But what I also want to do is I want you to play with changing the direction. So if you find that tender spot, you don't necessarily have to press straight into it. Think about pressing up into it, pressing down into it, you know, back into, like, you're gonna find a place that it hurts. And then you hang on to that again about a minute or so, and then move on to something different or a different side. You have to do both sides. You cannot, but you'll find one side is going to be a little tighter than the other. I can almost guarantee that one too. So that is just a basic like trigger point release, ischemic compression release, whatever you want to call it. The second is the same type of pressure, probably not that sweet baby Jesus type of pressure, a little bit less than that. And then you're going to move your jaw. So if you find, let's go to the other side if you were staying on. So find another spot, something that hurts. And then I want you to gently open and close your mouth. And you're gonna find either that spot gets better or it gets worse. And I want you to kind of feel around as you move. And then you're gonna find a spot and then continue 1 or 2 more times to open and close. And you should notice that.
Should we stay where it's more tender or where it's less tender?
You do one or the other. Where it is the most tender, so you have to with your mouth open, try to relax with your mouth open and get that spot, if that makes sense. So that's kind of like a press and move. You're gonna press on the spot and you're gonna move your jaw at the same time. And that doesn't necessarily only mean opening and closing. That also means like moving side to side. And the same type of pressure applies. And then there's just a general massage. So, and you can do both sides at the same time. You can do one side, find those spots again, and just with like 2 to 3 fingers, just make a big circle and kind of massage, but you also want to make sure that you go in both directions. So that release is the same for any part of the body. So I don't know, my jaw feels kind of good now. But that same applies. So your temples, your forehead, the top of your head, the back of your neck, the sides of your neck, like all of the same structure of what I just said, the pressure or the press and move or the little massage applies to all of those places as well. Yeah, that is pretty much all I wanted to cover, and perfect timing. So thanks for jumping on here today. I can take questions if anybody has them. I'm going to unmute everybody.
Is it okay to share your links around for this?
Yeah,
Monday?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I would prefer, so just so I have, so I know who's kind of coming and going, if you can just refer people to the website so that they can register themselves so that they get the emails, that's usually the best. There's some crazy Zoom things going on right now. So I would just rather know who's coming and going. But yeah, absolutely. And please recommend things too. I think this is a great recommendation. The desk setup thing is a big one. Yeah.
Good.
I love those frogs. I just can't get over it.
I love the frogs.
Frogs, yeah.
Okay, I'm hopping off. I gotta pull food out of the oven.
Cool. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Nice seeing you.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you prefer that we do what we would like to talk about in the future in an email, or is now okay?
I mean, now is just as good as any. Let me get a pen.
I'm wondering, are there any trigger points that we can work on that would help to relax the sympathetic nervous, the CNS, and help flip into parasump?
Yeah. I mean, straight off the bat, since we're in this area, phytomastoid is a good one to start, because anything that relates to the chest is going to be a good place to start. Down. One of the things, because to trigger that, you have to tap into the more of the calming aspect and the calming sense. So even if you just grab, like if you go right below your collarbones and so there's this notch here, and then there's the top of your kind of your breastplate, and then there's the bottom. The top is a little bit more soft and tender. If you put your fingertips gently on that and think about pulling apart, like you are just grabbing the top of the skin and pulling away from each other, and then taking some nice deep breaths as you do that. That's a good place to start. But I can obviously delve into that in a more extensive way, but that's just a little something to tide you over.
Thank you. No, that's nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And even if you think really, really superficial, you'll feel like a burn if you hold that for like even 30 seconds to a minute. Your skin will start to burn a little bit there. And I know, and that sounds like super intense, but it's like a good fascial burn. So, but yeah, I can definitely talk about that. Any other questions?
Do you have your topic for next week? I was just looking at your email. For some reason I thought you did, but then it was just.
No, I'm gonna kind of roll with these as they come. Like that, I will probably talk about the sympathetic nervous system and stimulation of that and how to tap into that a little bit, because that's definitely not something. So you can even see on my chest, it's already a little bit red. And that's a super common sign that it needs to happen more. But yeah, I don't necessarily have all of these topics. There's one thing I can always do is yammer on about anything. So, but if there's a direct focus and people want me to talk about something, I would love to do that. Like today, a great example. This was suggested by somebody, and then I threw in the jaw release because I could feel my own jaw tense. So, awesome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking in. Feel free to email me. Or text me, or however you have access to me. And I look forward to seeing anybody and everybody next week.
Oh, can I mention one thing?
Yeah, please.
I don't know if it was my connection or yours, but you froze for a while during some of the exercises. I don't know if that was my connection or yours though.
Did anybody have that?
I did, but
so I wondered, you might have better connectivity at your office, because that did not happen at your office.
Okay.
So I just wanted to suggest that.
Who did I freeze with and who didn't?
You froze with me.
So, okay, so only some. Okay.
And I was fine. I didn't have you freeze at all.
Yeah.
We do have like a pretty high end router and modem and stuff, just because my partner does like computer gaming, so we have like the highest internet or whatever, but
Yeah.
so I didn't have any issues.
Okay. I will look into that because I'm seeing people from here and from home, or from home and from work, so I will see if other people are having that. But yeah, that's obviously something I don't want. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
See you next week. Thank you.
Sounds good. Bye, guys.